All right, and welcome to Core Advantage Random Thoughts, episode 88, with special guest Tennille Nash. We thought we would talk about training the female athlete today.
Yep.
And I thought, given that you are a female athlete and a coach, it'd be good to chat about that. I think people know that there are differences in training female athletes, and coaches who've coached across genders know that there's quite a lot of difference. But often they will focus on the physical side and sometimes less on the psychological.
Agreed. Yep.
I think your reaction to me saying, come do the podcast was a good one. So what was your reaction?
I didn't want to do the podcast because I didn't think I'd be very good at it.
And the only reason I was able to persuade you is I said, we'll just delete it if it's rubbish. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is still that's your position.
Yes, it will be deleted if it's terrible.
And I think that's the most interesting point of difference between girls and boys and men and women. I think is that in general, guys will overestimate their capacity on any given task.
Agreed.
Yes. By 20 to 30%. We always think we can do. That's why we crash cars more. That's why we do all sorts of, all those epic fail videos.
Yeah. Yep.
They're always
guys.
Because the girls are the ones that went, no, I don't think I could do that. That wouldn't work.
Do that, no.
And so I think what that means is it has a whole lot of a flow-on effect in the sense that, that position of I mightn't be good at that is also connected to the idea that you shouldn't think that you're good, or I'm mucking this up. What I mean is, if you say to a guy, you think you're so good, he'll be like, tell your mates.
Yes.
I'm awesome.
You'll be like, I'm awesome.
Yes. Yeah. Tell everyone. Whereas if you say that to a girl, that's it can be taken as quite an insult. And the girl is more likely to say, no, I'm not. I'm not good.
They'll always be like, no, I'm not. Just doing what I need to.
Yeah. And it's all different facets of it's different sides of the coin in the sense that what that often means is that working with team sport athletes is that the female team sport athletes they're often more teamy than the guys because it's less about them. Yeah. It's more about the collective.
Yeah, work together as a team. Don't show off, basically. You don't want to be the show-off player. Yeah.
And it's interesting, even at Olympic level, with Olympic basketballs, I've had them, I had one classic example, an athlete who I set up the Vertec jump. And she's like, I couldn't possibly touch that. And this athlete had 140 kilo squat, amazing hops.
Yeah, so great. Great athlete.
Tremendous. And I set it up and she's like, I couldn't possibly touch that. And then proceeded to whack it pretty much up to here.
Oh, wow. Which is usually what happens though.
Yeah, because the girls tend to be,
I can't do it. And then
you just have a go and you're actually really good. The knock-on effect for that, I think, is an issue where the girls don't tend to practice the things that they're not good at as much. And I think in sports skills, that's an issue because they don't practice jumping, for instance.
Not like
you
boys
practice
would
a bit.
At all. Well,
because
you're
special.
Yeah. Yes. But no, after training, girls would tend to maybe sit around and talk more. Yeah. Or go home quicker, whereas boys stay, muck around, jump and try and touch the backboard or the ring, which is incidental practice that girls just don't
getting from a young age.
Yeah.
Tell us your sports story. So you've played footy, you've played basketball, you played basketball at quite an elite level. Mm-hmm. Take us through when you started and
when I was younger, so primary school, early high school, I used to do a lot of sports. Mm-hmm. So basketball has always been my main sport, but I've tried a bit of footy, but that used to clash with basketball, and girls were only allowed to play until they were 12, I think, when I was doing it. So then I couldn't play anymore anyway. Mm-hmm. I did a few triathlons, tried many others. I just like playing sport, basically. So I would just do anything. But basketball was my main sport. I think I started when I would have been 6 or 7. Mm-hmm. Just started at domestic level. And then domestic is Knox Raiders. So it was local domestic and it joined with Knox Raiders. So I got a letter to come and try out. I did that, but we also went to America that year for 3 months.
Right, okay.
So I didn't get into a team with all my other friends, but they had made an extra team that they could fit into the schedule. So I started playing then. And after that, I played a few seasons, and then I just started playing in, I think I was like under 14 twos, and then under 14 ones, and then I stayed in like 16 ones, 18 ones, 20 ones as well. But I also played youth league at Knox, and then Siebel, and then Big V at Bulleen, and I've just gone back to Knox as of last season to play state champ women in Big V.
Cool.
Yeah.
And in terms of your own training, so you do a bit of lifting, and you do you do very high intensity cardio when you do your running stuff.
Yes.
And you're currently in the triathlon mix because we're all doing a triathlon.
I am struggling a little bit mentally,
me too.
interesting, on the triathlon training, but...
Well, what are you struggling with?
I don't know, just doing the training. So I'm okay on the bike. Running's just a little bit challenging at the moment. I just don't feel like I want to do it at the moment. Swimming is my huge
me too.
challenge.
Do you know how many swims I've done so far in preparation? It's in Feb.
Yeah, month and a half.
Yeah, I have done 0 swims.
Okay, so I've swum like 4 times at least. But the swim stresses me out, and this is probably like particularly with girls, I would think, with the mental thing. I've done a triathlon before, and I did the swimming, and I found that it really stressed me, because with swimming, if you don't get your breathing correct,
if you're not in rhythm,
it can become quite hard. And it was quite choppy on the day because it's in the bay. And it stressed me out, but that has stayed with me. So even in a pool now, if I feel like my breathing's not great, I get a little, and then then
it's really hard.
And then you sort of just stop. I have to try and like regroup. I swim with my boyfriend, so he kind of pushes me along, which is nice, because I need someone in that respect.
That's good.
But yeah, I lift a couple of times a week. I like to try and get some running in as well. And I've just added the bike. And I'd like to bay swim, but a bit stressful.
Cool. So psychologically, I think there's the idea that you don't want to stand out and show off, and I think that feeds into not practicing certain skills.
Yes.
And then I think with female athletes, there's some other things that go into it as well. One in particular is, I think often girls are scared that if they lift weights too hard, like if they just try too hard one day, they'll end up being like a she-male. They'll get massive.
Absolutely agree, because I know that that's not going to happen.
Yeah, like you are you're pretty skinny. You're an ectomorph.
If I get pushed to do shoulder exercises, I generally say no. Because my shoulders
You've got great shoulders,
and I don't want to build them up, but I know that that's not going to happen. And mentally, I will still not want to do it.
We can... And we're back after the interruption from James's phone. Where were we? We're talking about the not showing off. And then the getting too
like
big.
feel like you're gonna
get massive. And the problem with that is then particularly with high end weight training, if you hold back a little bit, you actually it's one of those things where you just don't get the results.
No. You
know, like if you train with lower intensity, you're moving the weights around, but you're not really getting the adaptations.
Yeah.
So what it means is I tend to find that I train the female athletes differently to the boys. I'm curious to your thoughts. How do you think about it when you're setting numbers for an athlete? What's your thought process with the guys versus the girls?
Guys are usually super easy to set. Actually, guys will want to go higher than is probably appropriate for the next session. Like eventually they might be able to get to where they want to be. But obviously it takes time and good loading measures. But girls will usually say, no, that felt fine. And
I'll hold on that way.
I'll hold there. And you're like, but like you were squatting great, your technique looked good. Was anything sore or uncomfortable? They're like, no. And you're like, well, I think we should go up. But usually I might just like maybe take the bottom one away and just put like one set up.
And just kind of sneak the weights up.
And it just makes them feel like that that is achievable and they
Yep.
can do that. Whereas boys will probably want like every set to go
Everything
up.
to go up.
Yeah. And there's good things and bad things with both of that.
Well, I think often what happens is that the girls actually that focus on technical excellence, which they tend to be a little bit more focused on and less on chasing the numbers themselves.
Yes.
Often means that their numbers are really good too.
Yeah.
Provided, I think it's just that they just need a little push along. The
Yeah,
boys
you
just
just
need to
have
be
to-
held back a little. The girls just need to be pushed along a
Yep.
little. Yeah.
Just try and sneak them up so that they are getting better. And then once they see they're getting better and they can lift it,
Yeah.
like the response is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they love it, and I think
Yeah.
then they start to get I forget the word, the opposite of a vicious cycle where they feel good,
Yes.
they train harder, they put more in.
Yeah,
they feel
which
better.
is, and it's great to see when you get girls who come in and want to work hard and know like how to as well.
Yeah, it's great.
And not be like, oh no.
Yeah, it's really good. Not the shrinking violets.
Yeah, it's
really
great
good.
to see.
Yeah, it's cool. And they need to put in the hard work because girls are significantly more likely to sustain a host of injuries than guys. Depending on what stats you follow, 6 to 8 times more likely to sustain an ACL rupture and need a knee reconstruction. Across the board, groin injuries, knee injuries in general, shoulder injuries. It's only anecdotal, but it seems a lot more shoulder reconstructions with the girls and the guys. But the other ones are hard stats. I thought we could dive into a little bit of why biomechanically things are different.
Mm-hmm. Perfect.
So the biggest thing is just the hip geometry. The female pelvis has a different shape because it has to be able to get a baby out, and therefore it's just got different angles, so that the Q angle of the knee is completely different. We might get Jacob to flash up a little Q angle picture.
Oh yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And so the female knee is just inherently more vulnerable than the male knee. But the cool thing is that you can, and there's the fact that because they didn't practice jumping so much, their jumping and landing technique isn't as good. And typically, and again, we're generalising here, like there are exceptions
of course,
on either side.
Absolutely.
But typically also, boys will tend to play, in any given sport, they'll play lower in their stance. So they'll be in a more glutey stance with a better hamstring co-contraction to anchor the tibia.
Yeah.
They're just in a more aggressive position.
Whereas girls are a little bit more upright.
A little more upright, a little bit taller in their stance. And it's a lot better to be low. It's more stable. You're stronger in that lower stance. But the cool thing, I reckon, is that you can make the female athlete more biomechanically like a male athlete if you just make them really strong and enforce good stances. Like you just teach them how to stand well, move well, give them really good movement skill. I think then you really change the odds. You can never completely equalise because the shape of joints is different. But if you can build a little bit more muscle and a little more strength and that more range, I think that's really good. I think the other thing with the female athlete is loading is actually changing, being careful. It's easier to overload a female athlete than a male athlete. And people look at that and they go, oh, you're saying you shouldn't train them hard, so you're trying to, wrap them in cotton.
No,
It's
just different.
Just different.
Yeah.
And I think in general, the intensity should be the same, but often the duration should be just a little bit less.
Yes.
Because the reality is that a female adductor magnus muscle across, if you've got twins, boy and a girl both, so and they're both playing the same amount of sport, the adductors in the girl are actually having to work harder per step than in the guy because they're working around corners.
Yes.
Because the hips have got different shapes. They've got to have more work to do, so they're going to tend to be more fatigued. So I think it's just a matter of in training, just having it where you probably train, you just might be 5% less duration. It's not a big shift.
No, but enough to offset. Yeah.
What are the other things that, since you've been here, we train a lot of female athletes.
Yep.
And you came from, so you did, prior to doing our internship, you had worked in sport in various areas, you worked in college. Tell us about the college aspect with the female athletes, and then I want to talk about the rugby stuff.
Yep. I was only at college. I just did my initial uni placement there.
Yep.
So it was just for like a month or so.
Yep.
But I was with a women's basketball team.
Yep.
I also went to the gym occasionally where some of the other teams were training too, which was great.
What was the college?
It was New Mexico.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So I went there, basically just hung out to see how college system works, how athletes train. Female athletes over there are probably, I don't know, they're a bit closer to being like guys are.
Yeah.
So they're encouraged to work very hard, make sure that they're practicing all the stuff they need to practice. They get extra sessions if they need to work on stuff. But their system's a lot different because they're set up for that.
Yeah, because they've done it from high school. And,
So they're built for it, they're ready to go. But they also have on sort of coaching staff who can deal with that. So if someone needs extra time, they can just do that during school. Like they don't have to try and find time out of school where a parent takes them somewhere.
Do you think it's also cultural in the sense that Americans... one of the biggest differences, male and female, is that the male athletes tend to be more confident and self-assured, irrespective of their achievement.
Yep.
And girls less so, as we talked about before. Do you think also Americans in general, there's a cultural thing where Americans across the board tend to be more confident about, like, they think their healthcare system is great.
Yeah.
And then
compared to ours, no.
So as a country, I think they are a higher confidence country. And so perhaps there's less of a disparity between the guys and the girls because...
Yeah, the difference isn't... it's definitely still there. Like, it's not wiped out altogether just because they have more access to coaching and facilities. So definitely still a difference there, but just not as big a gap as it is here. Okay. But yeah, that was a great experience to work with. Stayed there for 4 weeks, watched their pre-season program. Yep. Take shape, which is a bit different because they have lots of rules they have to work with as well in the NCAA. So that was great. I did that there, and then in my final year of uni, or just as I finished, I did an internship for a year at Melbourne Storm.
Tell us about that. Because that's a pretty intense environment.
Yeah, that was
I can't recall the name of the head coach, but he's has a reputation of being... puts you under the burner or...
Yeah, there was... they also have a big coaching team. Yeah. Because I was in strength and conditioning, which is great because a lot of girls tend to go the research side of things. Yeah. So like the exercise science side, so looking at GPS and data and all that sort of stuff. But I was lucky enough to be put in as a strength and conditioning intern, which was fantastic. Yeah. So my head was Adrian. Yep. So he is also very intense, but great to learn from. Yep. So a completely different environment. I mostly worked with the under-20s and then rehab with NRL. Yep. So I did that for a year, but they train morning and night. So I would go in the morning to do weights with them. Yep. And then I would return again at night where they would do their field work. Okay. Yep. So their running, conditioning type stuff, and then they would go into training as well. And
was it a culture shock going, you've gone from a women's program in the States to a rugby male program? Was it? I
thought it actually would be. Yeah. I thought it would be extremely difficult, particularly being female, going into such a male-dominant environment. But Melbourne Storm were fantastic. Yeah. They run programs there to teach their players to respect everyone. Yep. The players listen to everyone. Obviously, it takes a little bit of time.
You'll win them over a bit.
Yeah, I've just walked into a facility. Don't know anything. But as the year got on, it got better. People would ask questions. I'd be able to take over more programs and run them through. They always worked hard. Yeah. So I was.
They know they need to be strong.
Oh yes.
There's no cruising by on your... You can't just cruise on your talent in rugby.
You cannot.
You've got to be strong.
You also need the strength. Yeah. But I was extremely pleasantly surprised.
That's cool.
Of the amount of acceptance. There was a few females. I wasn't the only one. Yeah. There was a few. But the acceptance was amazing, and I always felt fine there. And that's always felt welcome. So I was really happy with that too.
It's really important to create that environment.
Yeah, and it was a great environment, still obviously challenging. Yep. Sort of 17, 18, 19-year-old boys who were very strong. Yeah. and all looking for contracts for NRL and stuff like that.
Yep.
And a little bit different to here, but again, that's because it was more of a group setup. So I would see them twice a day.
Yep.
Whereas we try and see athletes here maybe 2 to 3 times a week. Yeah. But yeah, really good experience to come from. Really enjoyed it. A lot of different weights to what we do here, but as we spoke about, they're built completely differently. Yeah. But it was a good experience, and I was happy because I was super nervous about being female, but it wasn't an issue at all. Good. Yeah.
It's great how it's shifting. It's really good.
It was lovely.
So we should give some takeaway thoughts. I want to give takeaway thoughts 2 types. Takeaway thoughts for coaches, coaching female athletes, and then takeaways for female athletes getting the most out of their potential. From a coach's point of view, my thought is just knowing the individual differences within your players, and knowing that in general, boys are you can rip a team of men, you can really attack them and tell them how rubbish they are, and their response will typically be, stuff you, like I'll show you, and then they lift because of that. Yep. Whereas you overdo that with the female athletes, they actually go, oh, maybe he's got a point, maybe I am rubbish.
Maybe I'm not, maybe I'm not so good.
So I think it's knowing that there's a different set point there.
You definitely need to know.
And that there's a little more building up that needs to be done. And then on the physiological standpoint, it's just knowing that chase intensity, but a little less duration.
Yep.
And so mixing up the training in that sense so that the body's got more time to recovery. What's your advice for a young female athlete in terms of what should they do to get the most out of their potential?
I think they just need to listen to coaches that they trust, basically. So not everyone you're going to work with over time is going to be someone that you can trust. Sometimes you just have to work with those people. But if you're coming to a facility like ours, which is amazing, and we take you through your weights program, if we think your technique's great and you're lifting well, trust us to know that you can go up in your weights and you're not going to get massive. So it's a huge
That's the biggest thing, isn't it?
To be worried that you're going to get huge and then people are going to look at you like, oh my God, sort of what's happening. That's not going to happen.
Never happened.
And just getting you stronger is going to make you such an amazing athlete. And over time, you will come to accept that is a great thing. It does take time. I'm quite old now. And
you're a proper grown-up. How old are you?
Proper grown-up now. I'm 30.
30, yeah.
It has taken me time too, but I'd really like the young girls here to clue onto that a lot quicker than I did.
Such a difference. Yeah. We've got one of our athletes, Cass Gould, here now. And she's strong as an ox.
Amazing. So strong. That looks great.
I was watching her train with the WNBL group, so she's with our development squad from Melbourne Boomers, and she's holding her own against proper grown-up 25-year-old professional player.
Yes, which is amazing.
Yeah, because she's strong as.
Yeah, but you don't look at her and go, oh my God.
Yeah, she looks just like a normal athletic girl.
Yeah, a very strong athlete who is doing amazingly.
Badass.
So if girls can get themselves to that point, just believe in yourself. So just know that if you can't do something at the start, that doesn't mean you're not going to be able to do it later. So you need to work on that. If you can find someone you trust, they can help you work on those things. But if you can clue into that quicker than I did, you will be an amazing athlete.
Good advice.
Thanks.
Nice one. All right. Thanks, guys. There'll be some show notes and Jacob will sort all them out, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.